والصلاة والسلام على أشرف خلقه وخاتم أنبيائه وسيد رسله سيدنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المطهرين المكرمين. السلام عليك سيدي ومولاي يا أبا عبد الله، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت، وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. قال الله العظيم في كتابه الكريم وهو أحسن القائلين وأصدق الصادقين: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. من عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فلنحيينه حياة طيبة. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the purification of the souls, the enlightenment of the hearts, the acceptance of the deeds, and for the hastening of the reappearance of the awaited Savior, Ajallahu Ta'ala Farajah Sharif, enlighten your souls in the atmosphere with the recitation of salawat upon Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala.
Respected elders, sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Who were the influential and important women in the life of Imam Zayn al-Abidin al-Sajjad, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. When we come to analyze the illustrious life of the Holy Fourth Imam, you and I indeed stand in admiration regarding a number of key achievements, a legacy that deserves praise. One aspect that is not often studied or looked at when it comes to the holy Ma'sumin alayhim salam is the importance that the women in their lives played and the support that they gave to these holy individuals. History has not been kind to studying female individuals and personalities of importance. Many a times, you and I are accustomed to knowing a few who had left a great mark in history when it comes to Islamic women. We admire the greatest of them, Sayyidatul Nisa, the Lady of Light, Fatima al-Zahra, salawatullahi wa sallam. We consider her to be an exemplar and a role model. Indeed, we pay respect to the likes of, for example, Sayyida Zainab, Sayyida Khadija, peace be upon them. These people we know. However, if we think a bit deeper, there are a number of individuals who struggle to name other important women in Islamic history, but also those that were close to the Ahl-e-Bait. I ask you a question today. If I was to tell you who is Habbaba Walibiyya, there are those who will know who she is. There are many who will not know who Habbaba is. The realization, however, is ulama, our historians have talked about the fact that this Habbaba is considered to be an individual who achieved something that no other human being achieved other than the Ma'sumin. She was somebody who met 8 Imams of the Ahl-e-Bait. And she is someone whom the Ahl-e-Bait have praised in numerous narrations. Yet today history does not tell us much about this particular individual, nor do people know much about it. Likewise, when you look at, for example, the mothers of the Ma'sumin, if we were to ask the Shia world at the outset, if for example, other Muslims, because they do not necessarily know about the Ali Muhammad, if we were to ask the Shia of the Ahl-e-Bait, tell me something, one thing about the mother of the 8th Imam. In fact, tell me her name. If I was to say to someone, tell me an achievement of the mother of the 6th Imam. Tell me the legacy of the mother of the 11th Imam, Hudayf, for example. People would not be able to necessarily mention much. And it is unfortunately the responsibility of the scholars and the reciters as well as the researchers in order to present the legacy and the teachings of these particular individuals. For example, the mothers of the Ma'sumin. Did you know that when it came to Imam al-Hasan al-Askari salawatullahi wa salam, when he left his will, he said, the person who will look after the affairs of the Shia after me is my mother Hudayf. Because he wanted to conceal the identity and the presence of the Holy 12th Imam. He said, my mother will look after the affairs of the Shia. If anyone has a question, they should go to her. Imagine, these stories are important in a world that we live in today that is desperate for inspiration, role models, but especially those who are female. What do you mean? Today when it comes to our communities, when it comes to our sisters, our daughters, our mothers, many a times they are influenced by isms and movements out there, mainly the Western liberal feminism, other movements that tell them, listen, Islam is a male-dominated religion. Islam has 124,000 male prophets. Look at the Maraji today, are all male. Islamic law favors the male. They say these things in order for them to somehow be brainwashed. And that's why you find, unfortunately, some of our sisters succumbing to these kinds of propaganda, succumbing to this kind of talk and coming forward convinced of these kind of thoughts that exist. Many a times, they do not know of great women in history who have truly mesmerized the minds of people and have made tremendous contributions, but also have been great supporters of the Ahl-e-Bait alayhim as-salam. May Allah bless the soul of this lady by the name of Harra, the daughter of Halima Sa'diyya, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim. Halima, you and I know, the wet nurse of the Prophet of Islam, the individual who looked after him for the first 4 years of his life, and he respected her and indeed admired her. Yet the daughter of Halima, many times we may not necessarily remember. This lady Harra was someone who was arrested by the wretched ruler of Baghdad at that time, Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi. When he was arresting her, she was brought to the courtyard. She stood there. He said to her, I have been told that you are walking around the streets of Baghdad and you're telling people that Ali is superior to the other caliphs. He is better in the eyes of Allah than the first 3 khulafa. Is this true? She said, no. He says, what do you mean? She said, I have been walking around telling everyone Ali is better than every human being except Rasulullah.
Subhanallah.
He said, how dare you? This is much worse. I brought you for an offense, but you have come even for a worse offense. If you do not prove to me how this is the case, you will not survive. I will separate your head from your body. She said, very well. You and I consider the best of God's creation to be whom? The 5 Ulul Azm prophets. These 5 Ulul Azm prophets, you and I consider them to be the best. Let me tell you how Ali ibn Abi Talib is better than 4 of them. He said, how? She said, first of all, Nuh alayhi salam is someone who had a son who is disobedient to Allah. Not the fault of Nuh. But he asked Allah, Ya Allah, he is my son. He still had that affinity for his son. Allah said to him, إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ مِنْ أَهْلِكَ. No, don't say he's your son. Whereas my master Ali, his sons are Sayyida Shababi Ahl al-Jannah. They are the masters of youth of paradise. How can you compare? Then when it comes to Ibrahim, she said, have you read the Quran? In Surah Baqarah, Ibrahim says to Allah, Ya Allah, arini kayfa tuhyi al-mawta. I want to see how you revive the dead. Allah says, awalam tu'min, don't you believe? He says, bala, walakin liyatma'inna qalbi. Yes, I believe, but I want that itmi'inan. I want that certainty in my heart. She said, my master Ali said this line. لو كشف عني الغطاء ما ازددت يقينا. If all the secrets and all the veils that exist are removed between me and my eyes, my yaqeen in Allah does not change.
Subhanallah.
Musa was told by Allah, go to Fir'aun, you and Harun. Quran tells us Surah Taha, he looked and said, Ya Allah, قَالَا رَبَّنَا إِنَّنَا نَخَافُ. Ya Allah, we're worried, we're scared that he will kill us. That's what they were worried, that Fir'aun will take their lives away. She said, when my master Ali was told by the Prophet of Islam to sleep on his bed, what did he say? He said, Ya Rasulullah, awa taslam, that's all I care about. If you are going to be saved, then I will sacrifice my life. Did Ali ibn Abi Talib know that he will survive? Not at all. He was willing to sacrifice his life. That's why Allah sent the angels, whom Jibreel and Mikael, and said, stand next to Ali, defend him, protect him, for he is willing to sacrifice his life for my servant Muhammad. And when they descended, they looked at Amir al-Mu'mineen and said, Man mithluka ya Ali. There is no one like you, O Ali. وَبِكَ يُبَاهِ اللَّهُ مَلَائِكَةَ السَّمَاءِ. And Allah is showing you off to the all angels of the heavens.
Subhanallah.
Then she said, Isa, Ruhullah. Man considered to be important. Yet his mother, she was pregnant with him. She was in Baytul Maqdis. And Allah Jalla wa Ala says to her, Oh Maryam, you're about to give birth to Isa. Now you leave Baytul Maqdis. Whereas when it came to Ali ibn Abi Talib, not only did Allah instruct Fatima bint Asad to give birth in a mosque, but He instructed her to give birth and cracked the wall of the Kaaba in His mosque. The best and the choicest and the purest place on earth is where Ali ibn Abi Talib was born.
Subhanallah. Subhanallah.
Therefore you recognize that these women, when they come forward and speak like this, it is not a foregone conclusion. It is one that indeed is indicative of their courage, their bravery, their willingness to indeed speak about the Ahl-e-Bait and defend the honor and the integrity of the Ahl-e-Bait alayhim as-salam. When it comes to the Holy Fourth Imam, there are many who will ask the question, which women played a pivotal role in his life? And what are the important lessons that can be derived from these important individuals that you and I may not have heard much about? Specifically, when it comes to the Fourth Imam. Why? Because of course, he lost his mother when she gave birth to him. Lady Shahrabanu, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayha, the daughter of the Persian king Yazdajir III, was an individual who was chosen to be the wife of Sayyid al-Shuhada, Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. And you recognize that Imam alayhi salam married her because of the instruction from Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. Don't forget that these mothers of the Ma'soomeen are chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A womb that carries a Ma'soom is not a normal womb. A womb that's purified from any impurities. Therefore this lady leaves this world and indeed does not necessarily stay in order to look after this young Ali ibn al-Husayn. And therefore the Imam alayhi salam was raised an orphan. However, when it comes to pivotal, important women in his life, there are a number that you and I need to be aware of in order to understand their status in Islamic history. One of them, without a shadow of a doubt, is another unique individual. And wallahi, you need to know about her because there was no woman like her as far as her relationship with the Ahl-e-Bait in a particular way is concerned. What do you mean? Fatima. The daughter of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, the wife of Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, has a particular status which is unique. Why? Number one, she's a daughter of an Imam. Number two, she's the wife of another Imam. Number three, she's the mother of another Imam. Number four, she's the grandmother of another Imam.
Subhanallah.
Fatima bint al-Hasan, nobody had these four particular fada'il other than her. And when it came to Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq, salawatullah alayhi, he said, كانت فاطمة صديقة. Fatima was known as the truthful one. There was no one from the progeny of Imam al-Hasan like her. In al-Kafi. Imam al-Sadiq does not speak from himself. When the Ahl-e-Bait praise an individual, that means this person has reached a particular status. When the Imam says, out of all the children and the sons and the daughters of Imam al-Mujtaba, she's the best. She has achieved the excellence that you and I indeed would admire to indeed look at. This great lady, the fifth Imam says, one day I was sitting and she was sitting and he was a child, a young child. All of a sudden the wall, this is in Al-Kafi. I deliberately give you the reference so that in case you might think I just Googled it. It's there in Al-Kafi. All of a sudden he said the wall began to what? Collapse onto her. She looked and says, La wallah, la wa rabbi. By God, this will not happen. Why? La wa haqqul Mustafa, la a'adhanu laka bil suqut. By the Prophet of God, I do not give you permission to fall on me. Imam al-Baqir says, I saw the wall suspended on the air. A ma'soom. It's not a dream. This is not someone imagining. A ma'soom said, I saw the wall suspend, stop. When Fatima said, I do not give you permission to fall. And said, I moved and we moved, then it collapsed. Yes? These are individuals that Allah Ta'ala gives them these gifts by indeed His permission. Another individual from the life of the fourth holy Imam, who is a female and had a close relationship with Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, is this Habbaba. Please understand. Who is this lady? She came to Amir al-Mu'mineen and she said to him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I want a sign. I want some proof that you are chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says to her, there is a rock. There is a stone here. Bring the stone. She gives him the stone. He uses his ring and he imprints on the stone miraculously to the extent that the stone clearly shows the imprint of the ring of Amir al-Mu'mineen and says, take it. This is a sign of my Imam. She takes it. After the martyrdom of the Imam, she goes to Imam al-Mujtaba alayhi salam. Before she says anything, he says to her, according to the riwayah, give me the stone that my father used. She gives him the stone. He does the same thing. She goes to Sayyid al-Shuhada, he does the same thing. She was 117 years of age when she went to see Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam. She says, when I went to see Imam al-Sajjad, he was in sajda. He was in prostration. I waited. When he finished, I said to him, this is the stone. He said, give it to me. He did the same thing. The fifth Imam al-Baqir, the sixth Imam al-Sadiq, the seventh Imam al-Kadhim, the eighth Imam al-Rida, peace and blessings be upon them, all did the same thing. After she met Imam al-Rida alayhi salam, after several months she passed away. And Imam al-Rida himself used the cloak, according to a number of our historians and fuqaha ulama, that he used his own cloak and wrapped her body and buried her. This was Habbaba. One of the aspects of her life was that she used to frequently visit two particular Imams. Out of these, it seems history has recorded what? Has recorded two Imams that he had a special relationship with to gain knowledge from. Imam Sayyid al-Shuhada, Abu Abdullah, and his son Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhim as-salam, where she would go and gain knowledge to the extent that riwayat tell us what? Tell us that Imam alayhi salam, Sayyid al-Shuhada, Abu Abdullah, he would say, where is Habbaba? It's been a while, she hasn't visited us. They would say to him, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, she's sick, she's got some skin condition. He says, let her come. When she came, she said, I came. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam prayed at that moment, and I was cured. By what? By the dua of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Many a times you'll find that this particular individual would seek knowledge and is a narrator of hadith from these holy individuals. When it comes to other key female personalities, we need to ask this question, and that is, who amongst these females was there on the 10th of Muharram in Karbala? This is an important question, so that we can somehow derive some other important personalities who are women, who Imam alayhi salam would inspire, and who are great support for Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. One of them is whom? One of them is Fatima, the daughter of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam alayhi. Narrations tell us, according to research by a number of scholars who are part of several organizations based at the shrine of Sayyid al-Shuhada in Karbala today, as well as a well-known, established scholar in London who has dedicated his life to research relating to Ashura and Karbala, whereby he has authored more than 120 books on Karbala. Ayatollah Sadiq Karbasi, Habibullah. He has done extensive research, as well as what? As well as some other scholars from Karbala. The presentation that I'm about to give you, some of which may not appeal to some, because it's not what they've heard, is derived from these particular sources. When it comes to women who were there on the 10th of Muharram, they were who? There are a few of them who were the daughters of Amir al-Mu'mineen. One of them is called Fatima. Another is called Khadija. Fatima, the daughter of Amir al-Mu'mineen, was the one whom the wretched Yazid looked at and said, I would like to take her as a slave. She stood up in the courtyard of Yazid and said, Kalla wallah, ma ja'ala Allahu dhalika lak, illa an takhruja min millatina wa tadinu bi ghayri dinina. By Allah, this is not permitted for you unless you testify that you are no longer part of this religion, that you are no longer a Muslim. Announce. That moment, the wretched Yazid looks at her and said what? And said, إِنَّمَا خَرَجَ مِنَ الدِّينِ أَبُوكَ وَأَخُوكَ. The one who left the religion is your father, in Ali, and your brother, in Hussein. Yes? Sayyida Zainab now stands up. Next to whom? Next to Fatima, her sister. And says what? And says, بِدِينِ اللَّهِ وَدِينِ أَبِي وَأَخِي وَجَدِّي اهْتَدَيْتَ أَنْتَ وَأَبُوكَ وَجَدِّكَ. That it was the religion of my grandfather, my father, and my brother. It's their religion that you claim to follow. We are the source of the religion. Yes? Therefore, this great lady, and then she defended Fatima. She did not allow anyone to hurt her. There is another lady by the name of Ruqayya bint Amir al-Mu'mineen. Ruqayya is who? She is the wife of Muslim ibn Aqil. And the mother of Hamida. Many of us hear her masa'ib when it comes to commemorating the Shahada of Muslim ibn Aqil, right? The other women that existed or were there in Karbala include, for example, the wives of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. For example, Lady Rabab, in some narrations, as discussed. For example, Layla, as well as an important female you need to know. Her name is Ishaq. Please understand what Ishaq is. Ishaq is a person who was married to Imam al-Mujtaba alayhi salam. And he loved her a lot. And Ishaq is the mother of Fatima. Fatima bint al-Hasan, the wife of Imam al-Sajjad, the mother of Imam al-Baqir. Her mother is Ishaq. Now, Imam al-Mujtaba said to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, when I leave this world, I want you to marry this lady. After the waiting period is over, I want you to marry Ishaq. And that's what's interesting. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam fulfills this, and she's there on the plains of Karbala on the day of Ashura. Similarly, there are of course narrations that point to the existence of the daughters of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam there on the plains of Karbala. You and I hear sometimes names being presented according to research, and this is not conclusive. It's possible that there are other daughters who were there. It's possible that there are other females there. However, research by the sources I gave you say that there is a daughter of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam there in Karbala by the name of Fatima. Now, different cultures look at her differently, but the original sources say that her name is Fatima Sughra. Now, I'm aware that in some quarters they say Fatima Sughra was left in Medina. The narrations, however, or the conclusion from many of the researchers are that she was known as Fatima al-Kubra. It doesn't change much except the title. Why? Because narrations tell us Fatima al-Sughra, who was there in Karbala, actually became the wife of Al-Hasan al-Muthanna, the son of Imam al-Mujtaba, who fought in Ashura but was injured. And Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was the one who married them. And Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was the one who encouraged this particular marriage. Likewise, Sayyida Ruqayya, Sakina, of course, according to narrations that indeed existed at that time, as well as, and please pay attention, as well as what do we find? This lady who had a special relationship with Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, but we have not necessarily given her much attention. Sukayna bint al-Husayn. Salamullahi alayha is an outstanding female in Islamic history. A lady that many a times is confused with the 3-year-old daughter of Imam. Sukayna bint al-Husayn was a person beloved to the Imam, and somebody who witnessed the tragedy of Karbala and was later part of the caravan of the captives and remained in Medina for many years until she died after over 60 years after Karbala. Sukayna bint al-Husayn's legacy needs to be analyzed, because when I have these discussions in many communities, they'll tell us we have heard of Sakina, but we have never heard of Sukayna, because of the similarities in their name and the subtle differences. However, they are completely different people, different ladies that existed on the 10th of Muharram. We need to understand who they are, look at the sources that we have, and recognize that Sukayna bint al-Husayn has been the subject of distortion, fabrication, character assassination, and negative depiction in history. I typed the name Sukayna bint al-Husayn on Google to see the nature of lectures that exist about her, not from the followers of Ahl-e-Bait, from our brothers, other schools. And the lectures that I came across from English speakers in this country were absolutely despicable. They were horrendously vile, talking about her in the most disrespectful of ways. And yet some of our Shia brothers say, oh, mashallah, brother, he speaks very well. Beware of the poison. Beware of who you're listening to. Oh, but mashallah, he's very eloquent. Don't worry, I know what is right and what is wrong. Be very careful, because the poison is mixed with honey. And you and I need to recognize that the Ahl-e-Bait have been the subject of much distortion throughout history, especially those around the Ahl-e-Bait. Once they can't get to the Ma'soomeen, they'll get to those who are close to the Ma'soomeen. Only a few months ago, I was blessed and I had this determination. I said that I must go and pay respects to the grave of the mother of the Holy Prophet, Sayyida Amina bint Wahab, Radwanullahi ta'ala alayha, in order to what? In order to pay respects to the Holy Prophet. Because without a shadow of a doubt, this will be a source of happiness for Rasulullah. I made a trip from Medina to Munawwara this year, especially to go to an area known as Abwa, 250 kilometers south of Medina. What I was surprised, however, is the difficulty for anyone to accept to take me there. Every time I say to someone, please take me to this particular area, they say, no, it's not allowed. Not allowed? Why? It's the mother of the Prophet. It's not somebody belonging to the Shia school of thought. It's not somebody that's controversial. So I thought. When it came to the person who took me, he dropped me next to there was a mountain, and her grave was what? At the base of the mountain, right? I had to Google pictures to find the grave because it's concealed. Nobody was there. He said, I cannot come with you because if they see me and you here, we'll be arrested. This is Rasulullah. This is in what? In an area that's supposed to be Muslim. He left me and went. I went looking for the grave from the pictures that I had, from the location on Google, until I found it. But to my shock and horror, I found the grave with the rock, but the grave was dark black, like charcoal. I went and investigated. Only a year before, they had come and burned the grave. What musibah. Why? You ask, the mother of the Prophet, you burn the grave? And it's illegal to visit it? Why? Because you look at most Muslim and Bukhari. They have said the mother of the Prophet and the father are in hell. Next time someone tells you, oh, you school of Ahl-e-Bait, you have this, ask them who respects and reveres Rasulullah more. Who respects the mother and the father of Rasulullah? Yes? Because how can anyone accept, oh, but the Prophet asked Allah, Ya Allah, please forgive my mother and my father. And Allah says, no, they're in hell. It's okay, no problem. Twice Rasulullah visits this grave. The grave that I sat there and I was reciting ziyarah for her all alone. There was no one, nobody's allowed to come. Why? Why? Because of these narrations. But now they are accepted and they take it. Be very careful when it comes to studying the lives of holy individuals and people whom we revere from other than the followers of school of Ahl-e-Bait. Because our understanding of these people differs completely from how others look at it. Let's look at the life of this lady. To seek to, number one, seek lessons from her and to admire her legacy, but number two, to defend her reputation, to defend her legacy and excellence, and for us to place happiness in the hearts of Sayyid al-Shuhada, her father, Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, salawatullahi wa salamu. When it comes to Lady Sukaina, she was born in the year 48 or 49 after Hijrah, which makes her 13 years of age on the 10th of Muharram. Sukaina salamullahi alayha had a number of outstanding qualities. One of them, she was known in Medina to be amongst the most generous of people. Because, for example, in the book Al-Bidayah wal-Nihaya by Ibn Kathir, he comes forward and says that if people wanted an exemplar of the best female, they would say Sukaina. He said in this particular book, he says, كانت سكينة بنت الحسين أحسن النساء. An admission from someone who's not from the school of Ahl-e-Bait, حتى كان يضرب بحسنها المثل. That every time someone wanted to compare if a lady is righteous and virtuous, they'd say, how is she? Is she like Sukaina bint al-Husayn? That's how the standards were for this great lady. Similarly, she was someone who once gave 1,000 dirhams, amongst a number of other examples, to Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, and said, distribute this to the poor and the needy. Hence people recognize that her house was the house of magnanimity and generosity. That's number one. Number two, she was a staunch defender of the Ahl-e-Bait and the wilayah of Al-Muhammad. That a man by the name of, for example, Khalid ibn Abdul Malik, governor of Medina, he hated the Ahl-e-Bait, like many of Bani Marwan as well as Bani Umayyah. What he did was he paid people to speak ill of Amir al-Mu'minin. What Sukaina did in an area today known as Bain al-Haramain, between the Shrine of the Holy Prophet and Jannatul Baqi. That's where the houses were at that time. She, on the other hand, would tell the slaves and the other women, go and speak about the fadail of the Ahl-e-Bait alayhi salam. Wherever you can, speak about the greatness of the commander of the faithful. And that's exactly what they used to do, to the extent that these governors of Medina became extremely frustrated. They wouldn't know who's causing what, who is allowing these people to come and speak in such a manner which was hostile to the Ahl-e-Bait. It was not possible for people to come and publicly praise Ali Muhammad, but Sukaina salamullahi alayha would navigate this in the best possible way. Likewise, what do we find? We find that she had a very special relationship with Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, in that we are told Imam alayhi salam had a particular farm. One day someone came, he said, I'd like to buy this farm. Imam said, no problem, I'll sell you this farm with a condition. Every Saturday, my sister Sukaina goes to that farm and she spends time in this farm. You must let her do this. You must allow her to go to this area. He said, very well, I will do so. And so Imam alayhi salam would look after her. Similarly, she would look after him. In which way? We have a very interesting narration that Sukaina came to Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayh, and said to him, oh Jabir, you are Sahabi of Rasulullah, I have a request from you. He said, what is the request? She said, my brother Ali ibn al-Husayn, it has taken him years, he still cries for Karbala. And I am worried for his health. I am concerned that this will cause detriment to his health. Please speak to him to reduce the tears. This was Sukaina, who was worried about whom? The Holy Fourth Imam. Yet, when it comes to her father, he says something outstanding about her. Please understand this so that we can be defenders of the integrity of Ahl-e-Bait. And that was around Ahl-e-Bait. When it came to her, he has this particular line of poetry attributed to him. He says, لَعَمْرَكَ إِنِّي أُحِبُّ دَارًا تُحِلُّ بِهَا سُكَيْلَةَ وَالرَّبَابُ. He says, by Allah, I swear, I love the house that has Sukaina and Rabab. He says, a house that's beloved to me. Once his nephew, Hassan al-Muthanna, came to him and said to him, my dear uncle, I would like to marry Sukaina. Please, would you please allow me to marry your daughter Sukaina? Imam alayhi salam, according to the riwayat, says, أَخْتَارُ لَكَ فَاطِمَةً. I'm going to give you my daughter Fatima. Remember who? Which Fatima? Some of the cultures call her Fatima al-Kubra, but she is very likely known as Fatima al-Sughra. When Imam alayhi salam said this, of course, Al-Hasan al-Muthanna, the son of Imam al-Hasan, who later, by the way, had another son. Imam Hassan was known as Hasan al-Muthallaf. The third Hasan, he was a bit surprised. Why would Imam not allow him to marry Sukaina? First of all, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam said to him, I will marry you to Fatima. Why? فَإِنَّهَا أَكْثَرُ شَبَهًا بِأُمِّي فَاطِمَةٍ. Because my daughter Fatima resembles my mother Fatima the most. So, it's better for you. But let me tell you about Sukaina. He said, وَأَمَّا Sukaina. Shall I tell you why I don't think she would want to get married? فَغَالِبٌ عَلَيْهَا الْإِسْتِغْرَاقُ بِاللَّهِ. Her focus in her life is to constantly be in worship and the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was her main thing. Al-istighraq billah. Istighraq means she is somehow encapsulated, somehow overpowered by service and remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam would say to his nephew, I will marry you to whom? To my other daughter Fatima, not Sukaina. Yes? Which highlights that this Sukaina was not someone who was what? Who was just one of the children of the Ahl-e-Bait alayhi salam, but she achieved excellence as far as her spirituality and as far as her connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No doubt on the 10th of Muharram, when you analyze Maqatil literature, you find Sukaina had a pivotal role. In which way? She had a pivotal role when it came to the children. She had a vital source of strength when it comes to those fighters who went and fought. She was alongside her auntie Zainab. She was somebody who had many conversations with her father Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. It is also likely, and Allah knows best from the research that we have conducted, that it was her that was attacked on Sham Ghaliba, and it was her that had her earrings taken off. It is not necessarily the case that it's only her. It's possible that also the 3-year-old Sakina or Ruqayya also lost her earrings, but the riwayat that we have talk about Sukaina, somebody whom the army of Yazid entered the tent, they snatched off her outer garment hijab, and they tore her ears by taking the earrings. This was Sukaina as far as up to Karbala and after Karbala when it came to the caravan of the captives. When it comes to the traditions that exist in Muslim literature today, and please understand this, I'm saying this only for academic purposes, because there are people who get upset when they hear what's being mentioned about this holy lady in the books of Muslims. 2 important references are used to describe the life of Sukaina bint al-Hussein salamullahi alayha. And these 2 sources are of course Sunni sources. One of them is the book by Al-Madaini, and another is by Abu al-Faraj al-Isfahani, known as Al-Aghani, meaning the music or the songs. Abu al-Faraj al-Isfahani died of course in the year 376 after Hijrah. Now, he is the notorious individual who has described the life of Sukaina in detail, and today unfortunately our brothers from other schools use his narrations to talk about this lady. They say this was Sukaina, that's it, what can we do? That's the historical narrations that we have. What does he say about the daughter of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the 13-year-old? What does he say? He says, first of all, she was somebody who constantly loved to get married and divorced. Marriage, divorced, marriage, divorced. Not only this, she married an enemy of the Ahl-e-Bait, Mus'ab ibn Zubayr. Who is Mus'ab ibn Zubayr? He's the brother of Abdullah ibn Zubayr. Abdullah ibn Zubayr and Mus'ab are the sons of Zubayr ibn al-Awwam, the cousin of the Prophet, who stood against Amir al-Mu'mineen in the Battle of Jamal. Mus'ab ibn Zubayr fought and killed Mukhtar al-Thaqafi. The Zubayris hated the Ahl-e-Bait. The Zubayris were no friends of Ali Muhammad. Notice the extent that history goes to fabricate riwayat and narrations, that they would place enemies of the Ahl-e-Bait marrying the Ahl-e-Bait themselves. So they would say that this Sukaina married Mus'ab and married 5 other men. They would say, and this is even more damaging, this is what I heard from this particular speaker who's here in the US, that you know what, Sukaina was notorious in Medina for singing and having parties. She would get men in her house constantly. Come. She would flirt with them, astaghfirullah, have parties of singing. And this was something that everyone knew about her. She would spend her life having a house in Medina, whereby, what? Whereby men frequent in and out. In and out. What else? What else? they say that she had an issue with hijab, that her hijab was unique, that was known as Hamiyatu Sukayna. Hamiyatu Sukayna, they say, she used to wear the hijab in a way that looked like a pyramid, that would show the outer displaying of what? Of the shape of her head. People used to refer to that style as what? As the Sukayna style. And so on and so on. There are a number of other aspects related to this great daughter of Imam Hussein. Now, how do we respond? What is our position? Because it's not good enough only to say, you know what, we reject this. Or we do not necessarily believe in this. You and I need to be able to also have an academic way to examine some of this literature, but also to respond in the best way. What is the response? Number one, who is the source of these narrations? In the book of Abu al-Faraj al-Isfahani, that is known as Aghan. Who has narrated this? It's an individual from the Zubayri clan. His name is Az-Zubayr ibn al-Bakkar. Who is Zubayr ibn al-Bakkar? If you look at his biography, you'll find he was established as a liar, but importantly as someone who was a Nasibi, a hater of the Ahl-e-Bait. Interesting. So now the moment I start to use my aql and a bit of knowledge that anyone who claims to be a Muslim scholar has before looking at these narrations and telling the whole world in YouTube lectures and others that Sukayna was like this, let me think for a minute. Where are these narrations from? Who has placed these narrations? What is the objective of these narrations? This Zubayr ibn al-Bakkar hated the Ahl-e-Bait because he is a Zubayri. Now, it wasn't only this. The Zubayris in Medina had what? Had a particular lady by the name of Sukayna, the daughter of Khalid, the daughter of Zubayr. So who? Khalid, the son of Zubayr, was what? Was the brother of Mus'ab ibn Zubayr. He had a daughter by the name of Sukayna. Now, what do historians say quite clearly about Sukayna, the daughter of Khalid, the daughter of Zubayr? That number one, she would hold parties in her house. Number two, she constantly married and divorced. Number three, she had a particular hairstyle. So what happened now? The Zubayris, which was a notorious method used by the enemies of Ahl-e-Bait, anything which they had, they would fabricate and say the Ahl-e-Bait did as well, to justify their actions. To say it's fine. That was part of the plan. Not only to distort the mission and the vision and the reputation of the Ahl-e-Bait, but also to somehow give a green light to their practices. So this Sukayna bint Khalid ibn Zubayr was the one who displayed these acts in Medina, and not Sukayna bint al-Husayn, salamullahi alayha. And she's been what? Tarnished because of the existence of such narrations. How do we respond to these accusations theologically? Not only historically, not through academically. We say the following. Number one, Imam alayhi salam, Sayyid al-Shuhada, said this famous line. He said, Sukayna, her life is dedicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why Imam said it. Perhaps Imam knew that there will be accusations against his blessed daughter. Hence he said that Sukayna was someone who dedicated her life in the service of the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number one. Number two, let's look at the lives of the women of Ahl-e-Bait. How were they? There was a man by the name of Uthman. He said, I was the neighbor of the house of Ali. He said, for 5 years, I did not see Zainab or hear the sound of Zainab. The Ahl-e-Bait protected their women very carefully. They were the best exemplars when it comes to chastity and modesty and haya, positive haya and shame. They would never, ever display such immoral behavior as attributed to the wrongly to the daughter of Sayyid al-Shuhada. And that's why it's of the utmost importance that we recognize that such narrations have no place. On the contrary, Sukayna was known as a scholar. What do we mean? She was a narrator of hadith. A person who would narrate hadith from the Ahl-e-Bait, including this beautiful hadith from the Holy Prophet, Al-Rasul al-A'zam Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Holy Prophet would say, Humala'ul Quran, Urafa'u Ahl al-Jannah. Those who carry the Quran correctly are the Gnostics of the people of paradise. Please understand, this rich hadith, Humala al-Quran means what? Not individuals who carry the Quran physically, but the individuals who take the Quran seriously, who are the advocates of the Quran, who implement it in their lives, who recite it, memorize it, respect it, but also disseminate its teaching, are the ones who truly appreciate the beauty of paradise, are the ones who enjoy the blessings of Jannah the best. They have a special place in paradise. Hence you find today there are those who ask, how can I learn from the life of this lady? What are the key lessons finally from this illustrious individual, the daughter of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, the brave, courageous lady? One of the important lessons is what? Is the relationship that must exist between our fathers and their daughters. Today, amongst the Muslim women, there is a crisis of self-esteem. What do you mean? In the Muslim world, as well as the Western world, you see the presentation of some of our sisters. This is not picking on them. There are many issues with our brothers. But we're just specifically talking about this because it's related to the subject of Sukaina. When you look at the demonstration of how they're presenting themselves on social media, for example, it leaves a lot to be desired. Why? They're looking for that male approval. They're looking for that like. They're looking for that somehow attention that can somehow come from different non-mahram males out there. Perhaps one of the reasons is because they're not getting the attention and the praise and the support from the males in their lives, such as their fathers and their brothers. Today, our fathers, how much time are they spending with their children, namely their daughters? How much investment? What's their connection? What's their relationship? Are they giving them the boost? Are they always telling them, you know, I'm so proud of you. This hijab that you're wearing, may Allah bless you. Are they supporting and helping them to develop themselves spiritually and gain more knowledge? Are they encouraging them to indeed ascend and become better human beings? Or are they just there in their lives, just that, and leaving everything to the mother? May Allah bless the mothers. They're doing a great job out there. But you know, the daughter looks up to the father. The daughter wants that particular relationship with the father. And wallah, I believe it's all rooted from the best father-daughter relationship that existed. And that's of the Holy Prophet and Sayyidatul Nisa Fatima salawatullahi wa sallam. And this was the example that, of course, Sayyida Zainab would have when it comes to her relationship with Amir al-Mu'mineen. That Sukaina would have when it comes to her relationship with Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Today we must not neglect the importance that's presented when it comes to giving our sisters, our daughters, our mothers, our wives, these ladies, that self-esteem, that encouragement, that constant support regarding some of the challenges that they face out there. Not to think that they can deal with it themselves. That's number one. Number two, another key lesson is the fact that Sukaina, together with her auntie Sayyida Zainab salamullahi alayhim, and the likes of Kulthum, the likes of Fatima bint Hassan, the likes of Rabab and others, were absolutely the champions and the defenders of the Islamic dress code of modesty and chastity. Which today, I'll tell you honestly, there is a war on hijab today. There is absolutely a battle going on out there. And you might say, no, mashallah, we see hijab everywhere in the United States. We see hijab everywhere in the United Kingdom, everywhere in Europe, in the Western world. That's a great sign. Don't you believe that today we are witnessing a boom in terms of the Muslim women adorning the dress code of Zahra and Zainab, peace be upon them? I agree that at the outset that's something to be proud and happy about. But the question is, have we lost the essence and the ethos of hijab? What do you mean? You only need to go into, for example, TikTok and Instagram. You only need to go on YouTube and see what's happening out there. What's happening out there? Yes, a sister's wearing the hijab, but her demonstration or the way she depicts herself leaves a lot to be desired. Meaning what? The hijab is supposed to not draw attention of people towards you. The hijab is supposed to protect you. I ask you today, There are people boasting about the fact that they wear hijab and do catwalks and go on magazines that are fashion magazines. Today I have seen video after video sent to me in TikTok and elsewhere of hijabi sisters moving their bodies inappropriately, mimicking songs by other well-known singers in hijab. Today, when it comes to the demonstration of what? Of their haya, their modesty, at schools, at campuses, at colleges, is that the standard that we should be seeking, or is the standard slowly being secularized and liberalized? Hijab is becoming just a dress, something that I wear. Where is the akhlaq of the hijab? Where is the social hijab? Where is the hijab that protects our women and gives them that identity, that strength that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises them for? Today we have to wake up and smell the dangers that are creeping. Wallah, it needs a huge discussion. And I know it will hurt some people, but one of the worst and the most dangerous of influences today upon our sisters and our brothers is this Western feminism that's happening out there. Yes? It's bringing about these corrupt ideas. Oh, you know what? I want to be like this, and I want this, and so on. The comparison constantly with men. And the moment some idea is presented, oh, this is not fair. Why is Islam treating this? Okay, we are at the position of responsibility to respond to misconceptions. We must never ignore these doubts. These doubts arise because of what? Because of propaganda that exists out there, right? A question that people ask, why are there no female prophets, for example? 124,000? Why aren't there any one of them to somehow look up to? Number one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created males and females differently. No one is above the other. Allah has not somehow, in any shape or form, prioritized one gender over the other. Inna akramakum inda Allahi atqakum. Yet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says each has its duties and responsibilities. I ask you, none of these liberal feminists will come and tell you two things, for example. They'll never quote the hadith of the Prophet of Islam when someone came to him and said, who should I pray for, my mother or my father? And for 3 occasions the Prophet would say, ummak, thumma ummak, thumma ummak, your mother, your mother, your mother, then your father. No, you will not find that in the discussion out there. Neither you will find them looking at the jurisprudential laws pertaining to women when it comes to Hajj. Those of you who have been to Umrah and Hajj, you'll find that when it comes to this important pilgrimage, Islam comes forward and places the harsher rules on men. No doubt. Sunni and Shia. But no one will say anything about that. Because it doesn't suit the propaganda. It doesn't suit the mission. It doesn't suit the objective to try and somehow. Today, there are some of our sisters who actually believe that Islam oppresses women. Because they're constantly told again and again through tools like soft power on social media, on mass media, on educational systems, universities, campuses, that you know what, Islam doesn't give women their rights. Until now, perhaps they'll start to actually believe it, but they won't say it in fear of a backlash. They won't necessarily utter it, but it's there. You and I must recognize these dangers and look at examples that exist in history, but also tackle these misconceptions. And they have to happen through workshops. They have to happen through dialogues. They have to happen through mediums that will reach far and wide, and no doubt answer the questions that people have in order for us to be able to give justice to how the religion of Islam, the Quran and the Ahl-e-Bait have revealed and respected these holy individuals, and has indeed given attention to the role and the importance of females within the Muslim world. No doubt Sukaina exists as an exemplar. She died most likely in Medina at the age of 117, and of course it is possible that her grave is in Jannatul Baqi. We don't know where it is. Some say her grave is in Sham, in the cemetery known as Bab al-Saghir, but it's unlikely because narrations tell us that she was there in Medina until she left this world. But without a doubt, one of the important roles that Sukaina bint al-Husayn salamullahi alayha would establish is the aza and the remembrance of Abu Abdullah. Because narrations tell us in Medina, she would be one of those who would invite people to attend and remember the tragedy of Karbala, and remember what happened on the day of Ashura to her father, to her brothers, to her uncles, to her family members, each and every one of them. Sukaina would narrate what she saw. Sukaina would narrate what she witnessed. A survivor from the 10th of Muharram, a survivor from the caravan of the captives, no doubt. She would tell them, for example, that on that night, the riwayah exists that